Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good afternoon. This is our first meeting of 2023. I guess we'll start with the swearing in of our members. We have two new members. We have myself, and we have Mr. Herring, and I believe. And Andy, were you here last?
I was, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Stu, how would he swearing in? How does that?
So if you all stand up, face Scott McClure in his role as a notary public, and he will do the honors.
So I'm going to read it out loud, and then you add your name. So, I state your name.
I, Jeremy Redevelopment,
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
that I will
support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as a member of the Porter County Redevelopment Commission,
as a member of the Porter County Redevelopment Commission,
according to law
according to law
and to the best of my ability, so help me God.
and to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you. Start with roll call.
Roll call. Andrew Valletta.
Here.
Jeremy Rivas.
Here.
Don Henson. Here. Bill Herring.
Here.
Jim Biggs.
Here.
Jason Gillian is absent.
Election of 2022, or 20, it says 2022, it should be 2023 officers.
You know, I've read this agenda 4 times, and thank you for catching that.
That's all right, I said 19 something last night.
The commission has
I don't know where I was.
Traditionally, the commission has 3 elected officers, a president, a vice president, and a secretary.
I'll make a motion to nominate my old friend Jim Biggs as president or chairman or both. What is it?
President.
President of the Porter County Redevelopment Commission.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against, same sign. Motion approved. And we have the
Vice President. and
Vice
Secretary.
President.
I will nominate Jeremy Rivas for vice president.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. And Secretary.
I'll nominate Don Henson, secretary.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Okay, we have approval of minutes of April 25th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all righty. We have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 25th, 2022. See, I almost did it again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Financial report. Stu or the county auditor? We don't have the county auditor here.
Well,
Yes, we have a representative.
if you pay attention to the budget figure, the top line there that says beginning balance of $721,428, that was verified to us by the county auditor in January. So that's all you really need to know for now.
Okay. So approval of claims.
There's a claims packet in your agenda. We would ask that you review and approve it.
Is that this year?
No, sir, I'm sorry.
Is that the 42,000?
It's a chart.
Yeah.
42,275.
Scott, you reviewed everything here?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the April 2022 to present claims of $42,275.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the claims. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Approval of 2023 budget. Stu?
The proposed budget we have for you, focusing first on the revenues, the beginning balance of 721, the $500,000 that was in the 2022 budget to be transferred over to the commission had not been transferred, is not there yet. The 2023 allocation of $500,000 has been transferred. So total revenues, that and plus there's some $5,000 in tax abatement fees, we've already received about half of our budgeted revenues, and the other half are forthcoming. On the expenditure side, nothing really new and different. There's money for financial advisors if we need them, for grant writer. We're going to introduce Mary Jane in a little bit. Me as your project manager, Scott doing legal fees as may be necessary. We have plugged in some money for grant matches and capital improvements as they may become available. We still have $45,000 in the budget for the sign grant program that was approved on the US 6 corridor last year, in case any businesses want to do it. A budget of $500,000 for code enforcement, and I have a specific recommendation for you later in today's meeting. And then data processing money. So I would allocate or appropriate most of the money that we expect to receive, and I would recommend it to you for approval.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Meredith, can I have some help here? Thank you. By the way, Meredith was called in at the last minute to help. It's kind of hard to find good help during spring break, you know?
So you're saying she's not good help?
No, she is good help. But she did want to know if President Lincoln won the war, because she felt like she was inscripted for this. I'm teasing. She's been very helpful. Thank you.
Anytime.
Are you sure?
Last year, the commission approved some, what I would call carrots, some incentives to improve the commercial corridor along US 6 in the South Haven neighborhood. Specifically, you approved money for a low-interest loan program partnership with NERPC, and you approved money for the sign grant program to bring non-conforming signs into compliance. We worked the corridor. NERPC staff went door-to-door with the loan program. I went door-to-door with the facade grant program. And I'm sorry to say that none of the businesses signed up for it. But we still have issues of code in the corridor between 149 and the Portage City limits. And I want to go through, with Meredith's help, a quick little presentation. First, to bring you up to speed, we did create a TIF district. The first commercial structure in the TIF district is the Casey's General Store that's under construction at 149 and 6. We expect that it will be completed and go on the tax rolls in 2024, which means they'll pay their first taxes in 2025, and that's when the commission can probably expect their first TIF revenue. As you might suspect, the convenience store asked for a variance of the Porter County sign code. The gas stations in that area all have pole-mounted signs which are not in compliance with our code. We encouraged, Bob Thompson encouraged the BZA to not approve the variance, so we now have a conforming sign will be constructed there, and I think it's the right way to start that corridor. So things are going forward. I would suggest to you, and Scott and I think are in concurrence on this, we've talked to Jim and others, that we now look at a firm but fair code enforcement program to address some of the violations, apparent violations that are along that corridor. And I want to give you some examples. The Unified Development Ordinance has standards for fences and signs and the like. One of our prohibitions is that shouldn't have any barbed wire anywhere along fences in the commercial corridor. Yet when you drive along 6, right there by the Portage city limits, Meredith, we have a business with 2 lots, chain link fence, and barbed wire. Another problem we have is construction materials. You're not supposed to use commercial corridors for dumping stuff or storing the like. But when I drove over there, we found parking lots that were in disarray, trash containers that were overfilled, litter was kicking around in businesses. Again, not to be repeating what you see there in the code, but Meredith will show us a picture. This is construction material being stored right at the corner, and this is a violation, would be a violation, or should I say, would be an apparent violation of the code. We have debris and refuse being stored along US 6, and I think I mentioned the trash receptacles. They're supposed to be screened on all sides. They're not supposed to be overflowing. That's what we're having in that corridor. And another example is you're not supposed to store construction equipment and pallets and materials. That's being done, apparently being done along the corridor. And there's a sign issue. And the sign issue is a little bit, I think this was Jim's point, when there's a violation of a code, it becomes kind of contagious. We see that in graffiti, for example. We know that if you don't clean graffiti right away, it attracts, it's almost like a virus, it attracts new graffiti. New York City had their broken window code enforcement program, and where minor violations become bigger. We have what would appear to be a violation. You're only allowed to have signs of certain square footage and the like. The competitor to this business, when I talked to him about a sign grant, pointed out to me, he's across the street, he's in full compliance. He's got a sign that was approved by the BZA. He reported to me that he spent some money and time to come here and have the BZA consider his request. And his competitor across the street has this going on. And if you drive a little farther down the roadway, you can see that this sign problem is contagious. This is about a block away from where you see it, and now you can stop in on a Wednesday and buy a beer for $1.25. These are signs in the public right-of-way that it's clearly a violation of our code. But it becomes a contagious issue when the guy at the block can violate the rules, why can't I? And then it goes on and on. So, oh, by the way, the other thing is closer to the Portage city limits, we have these unsafe, what would appear to be unsafe structures. So besides the zoning code, we would need to get some code enforcement people in there, probably some engineers to certify to a hearing officer that the building is unsafe. Then this goes through, and Scott can explain it, a quasi-judicial process where evidence is presented to a hearing officer. The hearing officer makes a determination. The property owner is allowed the right to appeal to the men and women in robes down the block. But so it's a fair process. But it needs to be a firm one, and one where I think we would start with community engagement. I'd like, if you approve of this process, I'll meet with the South Haven. They have a residential group, and they've got a leader there. We'll talk about what we want to do and renew the incentives, that there are these carrots, but if you don't, there are these sticks. And we could write you up. We could take you through the county attorney's process, to the hearing process, to ensure compliance. The law is such that non-compliance can be forced into compliance. Contractors can be brought in to demolish unsafe structures, for example, and the cost can be put as a lien on the property so that eventually the government gets reimbursed for the abatement of the nuisance. Before I turn it over to Scott, let me just go into a proposed budget. I would suggest that we set aside some money for a contractual structural engineer to look at structures as they might be identified. The code enforcement officer we have here in the county is a one-person officer for the entire county, and I think for a specialized enforcement effort, we could look at hiring a part-timer to just focus on the South Haven area. Again, start with a gentle, you're not in compliance, we'd like you to get into compliance, but 30 days later, if you're still not in compliance, we've got something from the county attorney we'd have to deliver to you. There is a process, the attorneys have to get involved, notices have to be published, you've seen them all in the paper. Then we would set aside some money for demolition and clearance, and sometimes, and we did this in other communities I've worked at, we become the owner of the property, and we have to maintain what we own, just like we're expecting other property owners to do. So I would suggest we set aside a budget of $25,000 for mowing and cleaning and what have you that goes with owning a property. Scott, do you want to add anything?
Well, I just think it's part of the idea is to go into this area that we've designated, and, you know, we do only have one code enforcement officer in the county right now. It is a complaint-based system. That's why if you go to an area, you can't necessarily find a code violation, because unless someone's calling and complaining about that, it doesn't necessarily even end up on someone's to-do list. So being able to go in and look, I agree with the contagion analogy. If you have your competitor across the street has, you know, 3,000 square foot of signage all over the place, it feels like you're at a competitive disadvantage unless you also potentially violate the sign rules. I think we need to be careful that our sidewalks are properly mowed and, or, you know, we don't have weeds growing up in them, and to kind of bring the area up. I think we need to be looking at properties as they come up potentially for tax sale and things of those natures, and see what's out there and what is happening, and utilize the tools of the unsafe building. That would be more along the lines of the code enforcement, that next level where we think a building is potentially unsafe. That ties back to the structural engineer. If it's not a structure that's, you know, what I like to call visibly unsafe from the street, we think there's more of an engineering internal issue, whether it's a load-bearing wall or a foundation issue. That's what we would be utilizing the structural engineer for. And basically to go in this area, like Stu said, and I'll show that we are doing this action. And I think it ties really nicely in with those that were around at that first meeting that we went to South Haven and told them that we were here with the new stormwater program and a new stormwater fee, and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. There's at least 2 of you that were there, and the resounding response at that time was, we're not going to hold our breath, okay? I think through lots of years of doing exactly what we said we were going to do, accomplishing those things, having that stormwater system over the years come online, having those roads be paved, has built a relationship that I think Stu is attempting to tie back into with that community group and those in that leadership. We tapped into it one other time that I can remember clearly, and that was Jim, you were involved with the unplated cars on the road. We worked with the Sheriff's Department. We worked with the Portage Township trustee on mowing. We gave everybody through the community group the warning, you know, they're coming, get your cars moved, they're coming, get your yards mowed. We gave warning, and we saw that kind of that 2-tiered, the community group kind of putting the knowledge out, us not coming in with the strong hand originally, giving a little bit of warning, and then actually showing up and having some cars towed and having some houses tagged to be mowed. We saw kind of that cascade the other way contagion of people moving the cars, mowing the grass, and taking better care of things. So I think this to me is kind of the next logical block on what we've been doing in South Haven. And I think also what's nice about the relationship we've built with that community group is that they are also much better, they know their neighbors. And so when misinformation starts to leak out and occur, we have seen whether it was stormwater or paving or things of that nature, they were the first ones armed with the knowledge to go defend what was happening, because they knew enough to know of all the situation that this was ultimately a really good thing and we had to get through it. So I think now we've kind of worked our way out to 6, and now we need to go out there and do things that I think will make that area nicer. And as we've talked before, if the middle of the county is brought up, it helps the whole county, and especially the two largest cities that are impacted one way or the other. So this is kind of that step to go in that direction.
Right, as we talked earlier, I mean, my thought is that a lot of what's been going on out there is due to, I don't think, because nobody was paying attention. And it's sort of well, if they don't care, why should I care? And what we're trying to do here is send a message that we care. And, we want to see some positive change here. We know that these properties are expensive, and if you work with us, we'll help that investment that you have continue to increase in value, but we're going to have to work together to do that. And that's the message that we want to send.
We've done a couple with code enforcement, as you're talking about, Scott. In Hebron, we've had 2 or 3 different instances that we were able to put property back on the tax rolls that were delinquent in taxes and back in abandoned kind of properties. We've had a couple that we had to tear down, and a couple that they've rehabbed and really brightened things up. So this is a definite thing that will help South Haven if we can get this movement going, because it did help us down in Hebron. So.
Yes.
Is there a set protocol that's written down that, shows the steps? Is it increasingly gets more painful for the people who are involved? I mean, are there like step 1, step 2, step 3, and so forth? And
As far as the code enforcement part?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We have a property maintenance code,
Yeah.
and the unsafe building is adopted, so we have all of those.
But I mean, there's actually you could put down a timeline if you followed it.
The officer comes out, gives you 30 days.
Yes.
And that was the next question is, through the whole cycle, if they take it right to the, liens on properties and so forth, what's the shortest time frame you could?
If it was an unsafe building, if we identify it as an unsafe building, and so from that moment, I then would get a civil warrant to have the engineer probably enter to get the idea of what is good or bad, or if it meets the qualifications or not. We would wait for that report to come back. Those normally don't have a really long turnaround time because you're looking at something fairly specific.
Yeah.
Is the foundation good? Is the structure good? Is there a real structural problem or not? If there's not a structural problem with the building, I don't believe this board wants us tearing those down, not that you're suggesting that. But if it is not structurally unsound, if it's not structurally sound, then that's part of the reason why we see some of these properties turning on property tax sales, and they're not inhabited very long, or there's a business not in there very long, and those probably are the best case scenario to get those tore down. Now, from the moment of filing to the moment of getting an order, luckily, we have our system set up here within the county with a hearing officer, so we could have a hearing within 30 days of getting that engineering report. And at that hearing, the judge will make a determination of whether it's tore down. Now we're to the tear down. At this point, you're probably looking at another 60 to 90 days to get the quotes and get it approved by this board, and then activate whatever contractor won the award to go tear it down. Do the lien on the property. When it turns over next, that's when we would get paid back.
Well, Scott, what about violations, according to our ordinance, within the corridor, like you were talking about the signs? Somebody was violating that and they just refused to.
Well, then, under those, if it really is just a sign problem, then what we would do is file for basically a temporary injunction through our property maintenance ordinance with the courthouse there to say, we want an order enjoining them or stopping them from being able to do what they're doing with their signs. And if necessary, we want the ability to go in and remove what is in violation, along with asking for attorney fees to be reimbursed, along with the cost of the process to be reimbursed back to that business. So it's quite a stick for a viable business who intends to be there,
Yeah.
it's not in their best interest to not cooperate within the code. There, you know, the times we see the most fighting is when it maybe isn't a viable business that's long-term or planning to be there a long time.
I just, you know, you have the money here set aside to do certain things, and I'm just trying to imagine, you know, something getting drawn out like trying to evict people. You know, they're squatters and they start fighting you on all sorts of fronts, and I just, you know, if it's a tidy little step-by-step process and there's an end to it, you know, then it makes sense to do as much of it as you can at the best pace you can to see a change, you know, not just let it drag on.
But there's thankfully, I mean, there's hundreds of examples just across our state where if this is managed properly, it has great results.
But it makes the corridor more attractive for customers.
Exactly.
And it helps the neighboring businesses. That's what we're trying to do, is make
Yes,
make
help the
Porter,
business,
South Haven a
help the
better place to
property
live and work and grow.
Right.
That, I mean, to the viable, long-term property owners or business owners there, they should welcome us, because
Yes.
what we all were attempting to do is make business better and more attractive to their people that would be, they're hoping that we're gonna come spend money there. So we're on the same page with it.
It's too bad the peer pressure of other businesses doesn't seem to always work.
Do you have anything else?
I would just kind of like a motion for the record that authorizes us to go forward with this initiative and set aside this budget. In a later matter, we have consultant contracts. The way I laid it out probably needs some discussion, but we can do that in item 10.
So you need a motion to do what?
To approve a code enforcement process in the South Haven Commercial Corridor along US 6.
So moved.
We have a motion to hire a code enforcement officer for the longest Route 6 corridor, South Haven corridor is also known as. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Well, what's the motion again? I guess I'm a little confused.
I-
This is for the budget?
I think what Stu's asking for, to be clear, is we're on number 9, is just for this board to approve this concept happening
Right.
in the South Haven corridor.
But I understand.
Yeah, the concept, not to,
And then we'll get to the specifics on who's getting hired to do what in 10 here in a moment.
He talked to me, we'll deal with that. I'm good with that, by the way.
Yeah.
So number 9.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
that was to approve the initiative.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And then we'll go to number 10, and I understand and don't entirely disagree. Jeremy had brought up maybe a different process. I mean, on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the commission president to enter into consultant contracts with the following firms, subject to budgetary authority and commission attorney approval. I think, Jeremy, you stated you wanted board approval.
Yeah, just, you know, these other, you know, contracts that we've had, I mean, they've been in front of us, we've approved them as a board. You know, I just want to make sure that this
Yeah,
board.
I don't disagree.
In its
I think
entirety.
more eyes
Yeah.
on the contracts, the better, so.
We review the specifics, if we're going to enter into a contract, that this board, you know, sees the contract, who we're entering into it, how much, you know,
The
everything.
board actually approves it.
Yeah.
Would it be okay to do items A through E? These are renewals of,
I'll make that motion to approve items A through E, you know, in form of a resolution, if that's what it is
And
authorized.
that would be the grants with M.J. Thomas and Associates, the grant administrator,
yes?
and Raymond Elwood Legal, the contract for legal services, contract for Baker Tilly for services of an auditing nature, contract with SEH, Dan Bodich, TIF resolutions and filings as may be needed, and Town and City Engineering, Inc., that would be Stu's company for project management.
Correct.
We have a motion to approve those items A through E only. Do we have a second?
Second it.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Now, F, G, and H
Which I think this builds off the initiative we just, approved. I mean, I think they're necessary to move forward to, have a part-time code enforcement officer on a contractual basis, to get a structural engineer to help that code enforcement officer, and then, to hire a company for property management. I completely agree. I would just like to see, this board sees, who we're hiring and what,
So
at what rates.
We all agree in theory, it's just we need the contracts.
Right,
So,
right.
Which would then mean that we have to continually meet, not since last April, if we want to be an active body that wants to move forward on things. We got to meet monthly, we got to meet quarterly, whatever is necessary to continue to
I
do
think we
business.
should be, I think to really to build up some steam here to where we're making a difference, we're going to meet monthly. I think.
That way there's no delay in moving forward when, these are presented.
And, well, whenever you make a motion, there's always sometimes a reaction, and we'll probably need your guidance from time to time. We may stumble along the way and ask you to
Okay.
reconsider and smooth the process.
Absolutely.
You're not stumbling, you're not making decisions, so that's,
There you go.
that's okay with me. So you will bring, our next meeting, you'll bring information in regard to the contracts with these other positions.
I think our first step would find that special code enforcement officer. I don't think we need to necessarily hire a structural engineer or a mowing company yet, because we haven't
Right.
gotten that far down the road. But I think if we hire a knowledgeable, what I would call firm but fair representative who can meet with the businesses and the community, that would be the very first step. So we'll bring that forward next time, and if you've got some suggestions, please let us know.
Any other questions of Stu?
It sounds like you have a sort of a hit list of ones you might go after initially, but how do you try to collect the information? Is it just, you got to have a citizen come forward and complain, or do we have to, be looking for it ourselves?
You want boots on the ground?
Well, we're anticipating having the code enforcement officer stay in this corridor
Okay,
and just work this corridor
okay.
to be able to basically ferret out the code violation.
Well, you've got to act on them in a particular order, so the prioritization part is kind of what I'm thinking of,
It's almost like traffic enforcement.
Yeah.
If there's a whole bunch of accidents in a particular corridor, the police monitor it, and then the word gets out. There's always a cop checking for speeding here on,
Yeah.
we'll do the same
But the
thing.
most egregious ones, you want to try to make an example of sooner than later, and, instead of picking on somebody who's just slightly
Yeah. I see.
awry of things.
Well, one of the advantages of having a code enforcement officer in that corridor is their availability to the property owners to work with them, and them to work with him or her.
Right.
And that is a huge advantage. It will turn out to be a huge advantage to them. Whereas with the code enforcement that we have in Porter County, as Scott touched on, we have one officer for the entire county. So she may be up north one week and down south the next week. You don't see her for another week or two. So this is going to be a huge advantage, and things I believe things will move pretty rapidly because of that.
Well, there'll be people who, I assume the officer in question actually talks to the people to let them know that they're,
Well,
not
in effect, they
proper.
write you a ticket.
Yeah.
But first step is a warning.
Right.
And,
And from that, since they have a warning, I assume that they let them know, if they do these things, it'll get them in
bring
good
them back into
stead.
compliance.
And so,
And if the ordinance says, for example, you have 30 days to get into compliance, and if the property owner says, I can't find a sign removal company, they're all booked up, and for the next 60 days, a good enforcement process is, well, good, who do you have a contract with?
Yeah.
Well, it's ABC Sign Company, they can't come out until May. Okay, we'll come back in May. And that's the best way to get this going.
I'm just thinking you could get a lot of compliance, maybe just by having somebody tap them on the shoulder and so forth, without getting into, having to do legal
Oh,
stuff.
we wholeheartedly want it to be done before it's tickets, fines, court actions, unsafe building. I think also this code enforcement officer is going to get, whoever it ends up being, their job's also going to be to educate the property owners, not just on, because they're gonna get asked, well, why is that legal? Well, this is why that's okay or that's not okay. This is why your situation is either okay or not okay. Here's where you find it, this is where it comes from, this is where you can find it in the county or on the website, because then, like you're saying, if they understand the rules and also understand that I get to call him or her to say, by the way, I'm doing my stuff, but now that I've read this, he's got a construction, and they realize that gets action.
Yep.
That's when you start to get that synergy going, where people try to help themselves as far as getting into compliance.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is if we do our job here, they're going to do, they can't help but do their job. And once the business is out there and the property owners understand, we're here to stay and we're here to make an improvement, this is not going away. So let's work together.
Right. Okay, thank you. The next item, I'd like to introduce Mary Jane Thomas. She is going to sit up here next to me, please. Get the microphone lit. And talk about, I sent you an email. This is let me introduce this. Mary Jane has really good radar for grant opportunities. And last, I think it was March 8th, she caught that the U.S. Department of Agriculture had issued a notice of a change in the boundaries of eligibility in Porter County. So we talked to the eligibility officer. Mary Jane prepared this report. And all we're asking for today is an authorization for Mr. Biggs to sign a letter of support to the USDA's proposal to expand the eligible census tracts for USDA housing programs in Porter County. MJ?
Thank you, Stu. Members of the Redevelopment Commission. The USDA has various programs that benefit rural areas in counties across our country. And the single-family, the multifamily housing programs are at this point in Porter County, the eligible areas are the northern half of the county, and the ineligible areas, in addition to that, are Portage, Westchester, Pine, Union, Liberty, Center Townships. 50% of Jackson and Washington are ineligible. And then we get into, excuse me, I misspoke. 50% of Jackson and Washington Townships running north and south on the east side are eligible. 75% of Porter and Morgan Townships on the northeast, southeast, and southwest quadrants are eligible. And then 100% of Boone and Pleasant Township is eligible. So in your packet, if you look, there is a map, looks like this, and the shaded areas are ineligible areas. This is a USDA map. You have to go on their website to determine eligibility.
So the areas the area in yellow is not eligible.
Correct.
That's correct.
And then the areas in green that I drew are potential eligible areas.
So this was a change that they're thinking about.
And then I put they don't announce their change until June.
Okay.
All they're saying is that it's east of Chesterton. So making a best guess, we said, let's put a pin here, draw the line down, and that will give us the additions of Jackson, Pine, Washington, and Morgan, potentially.
Well, east
So
of
they're gonna
east of
shrink-
Chesterton is Liberty Township, and I mean, could take in maybe a part of Portage as well.
You know, it could. At this time, it was really difficult. I spoke to, and Vince did as well, Mr. Maloney, who is making these boundary adjustments, and there is no map until June of 2023. So this is all an estimate.
And I apologize, you said east, didn't you, of Chesterton?
Yes.
Yes, east of Chesterton.
I'm thinking.
East, I gotta go this way. So the red line is what we're suggesting is moving in. So that means what is now ineligible, that's yellow. With the red line, you move it in, it'll become white, it'll become eligible.
So the proposal we have is you endorse this expansion of the eligible area. We will see their map in June. They will send it to the secretary for implementation, if I remember the timeline, in September or October. What we're doing there is just kind of making it a little bit more eligible. What I think the bigger opportunity is working with the eligible areas throughout the county, not just this area east of Chesterton. There are loan and grant programs available for owner-occupieds of single-family homes and for rehab of multifamily homes that I don't think we as locals here have been doing a good job selling. And it could be a way for you to bring someone on board, potentially down the line, to do some door knocking and say, did you know you're eligible for these programs? You should call the USDA. Most of them are low-interest loan programs. Some, depending on eligibility, if you're low and moderate income, it's what I would call a forgivable loan. They give you $10,000 to take lead out of your lead-based paint out of the house, and if you stay there for a certain number of years, each number of years, they'll forgive a portion of the loan, so it becomes a grant for owner-occupied structures. That's this particular USDA program. I would point out, though, that USDA has other programs for public facilities and the like, and eligibility for those, we don't know yet. They'll be determined again in the fall.
October. So there will be another round of eligibility, ineligibility, boundary modifications coming in the fall for the other programs, which are community facilities, and that's the last piece of information in your packet. It will be water and environmental programs, it'll be business programs, it'll be community facility programs.
You say community facilities, fire stations, community buildings?
I believe so. I will look into that for you and get back to you.
Okay.
What are the qualifications that would make a area or a community become eligible that's currently ineligible?
It is income-based, and then it's also defined by rural character. The USDA has a definition of rural character, and the townships that we have described meet that rural character. So there would be approximately 2,400 people that could become eligible if those townships or portions of those townships are included.
So Andy, if you're in an MSA, a Metropolitan Statistical Area, you're automatically ineligible from a USDA program. You'd be eligible for HUD programs or the like. Then rural character, as defined, there are actually metrics on it. How many people per square mile and the like. And this process is done, by the way, I think every 5 or 10 years as a result of the census. So that's why they're adjusting the boundaries this time.
Is there a single downside?
I don't think so.
I don't see a downside. I think it's excellent that if you do this, you're showing an interest in trying to make your community more eligible for these USDA programs, which they're currently not eligible for right now.
Well, I make a motion that President Biggs, sign a letter of support expanding the USDA eligible areas for grants.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Although we have a motion on the floor to approve the president's position to sign for the, and what did you call that exactly, Stu?
Letter of support expanding USDA eligible areas.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
I have nothing else to bring to your agenda, sir.
Does any of the board members like to?
Well, just moving forward, where we left off early last year in terms of like tipping the South Haven area and trying to get some economic activity at that corner of 6 and 149. I mean, is there an update? Was there any movement since then, or what's our plan moving forward?
Mr. Rivas, there's been a lot of discussions with the property owner at 6 and 149 North. The challenge that he's facing, besides bringing customers in, of course, that's always what a realtor wants to do, is drainage. And he has to decide, and we've been working with him, are you going to do on-site drainage for individual lots, which Mike and the others upstairs are not a fan of, or will you do a comprehensive drainage program, which we're encouraging him to do. And he's got a partner and he's got investors that also need some encouragement along the way. Our goal is to get that property through a comprehensive stormwater approval. Then it's more likely to be sold because you now have eligible shovel-ready property on the shelf. Same time, we're also checking with sister governmental agencies. We'd hate to miss an opportunity, for example, of another governmental agency that needed land that we were somehow incentivizing for development. So there's some back due diligence going on, checking in with folks. The primary partner of that development is, he vacations out of Porter County in the wintertime, and he emailed me that he'll be back next month and would like to visit. So we're moving along as best we can.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else have anything to say?
Well, kind of exciting for the down south here for Hebron. We've got 2 large subdivisions going in. Phase 1 of the Park Ridge subdivision will start building here in the next month or so. They're planning on pulling about 30 permits right away to start building. We're working to develop the residential TIF for agreement for the Windy Hills proposal right now. And that'll amount to about 800 homes when it's all completed. So that's a huge growth for Hebron, something that we're trying to work on right now. I view it as an economic development. We built the first mile of trail on the Veterans Memorial Trail with Mary Jane's help of getting the Next Level Trails grant. And she was very successful on that for us, and I'm forever grateful to that for that, because people are using it tremendously. I'm trying to put together a group, and whether this group is something that could be help us with late down the road. The Great American Rail Trail will run from Washington, D.C. to Washington State. We are part of that trail. And coming through South Porter County between us, Couts, and La Crosse is also part of that Great American Trail. That needs to be completed. Governor Holcomb is strongly in favor of trails in Indiana and encouraging the Indiana complete our portion of this whole nationwide trail. So down the road, we're looking for any help we can get as we get this group formed, because once we get outside of the town of Hebron, right now we can move some of the things in the town, but once we get outside the boundaries, we're going to need county help. Lake County works with us and is acquiring land right now to Iowa Street in Crown Point, and they're going to continue further down to get to Leroy and working. I've asked them to start working from County Line Road to Leroy so that we can connect our Middle East Memorial to the Korean War Memorial, which is about a 4-mile stretch right there. So those are some of the working parts that we're trying to do down south right now. And like I say, I may be coming to you somewhere down the road here and saying, help. So.
Well, I think that, I wanted to say a couple of things today before the closing today, is that one is I would like Stu to at least, once or twice a year, approach the County Board of Commissioners as well as the County Council and kind of give an update as to what this board has been doing. I know that, in the past, I knew very little about what was going on here. It's probably due to my own fault that, I didn't take the time to look into it, but, I think having on a regular basis come in front of us and let us know what activity is going on,
Sure.
This really helps the office holders. The other thing is I think that we should, as a board, look at other parts of the county and see what kind of project or program we want to get involved in to spread goodwill. That we're here to make a difference, and that means countywide. And, you know, let's determine if, you know, how we can do that and to, you know, to what extent, so. Okay? Any other questions? Anybody say anything? We're recessed.
Public participation, call for.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, there's no public here. Oh, we got Commissioner Rignitz here.
You don't want me to come up.
So the record is, so nobody signed up to speak.
Does the press have any questions? That'll be the first, but by the
Well,
way.
I'll have some specifically for Stu as well, but I guess the general question for all of you is how long has this corridor in South Haven been on your radar as a big
Help me on this, Scott and Don, but I think this is our second year.
Yeah.
You know, and Shelley, it's really a great project, because if you look at what RDCs are supposed to be doing in a community, whether, you know, it's a municipality or the county, and TIF areas, we couldn't have a better candidate than right there. I mean, the law was made for purpose, you know, for projects like this, so it's perfect.
And just to clarify, with the signs...
Doug, if you want to answer that question, read it in tomorrow's Post, will you, please?
With the signs being non-compliant, you're not talking about signs that were put up before,
We're not-
even signs were required?
We're not talking about legal non-conforming.
Got it. Okay.
Any other questions? We're good? We're recessed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stu.
He'll sign your contract and I will scan it and send it over to you.
Try to do something on a more regular basis.
Another way of saying grandfathered in?
So when it was built,
It's compliant for about
it's still there.
12 hours.
Code changes.
Have to show you're helping yourself first.
We don't get to change the code and then go say, tear all your pole signs down.
Well, yeah.
But if those signs come down,
That's safe
fine.
interpretation.
or I believe damaged
Kind of surprised